Our chosen brand is Nestle. The Nestle brand originates from Switzerland in the 1860s with the creation of the Anglo-Swiss Milk Company and Henry Nestle's infant milk formula. In 1905, the two companies merged to form what is known as the Nestle Group. Nestle is now active in 180 countries, representing more than 2,000 different brands. Its largest market is the Americas, with 46% of sales coming from this area. A further 29% comes from Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. Stakeholders include their customers, suppliers, and farmers, the local communities where the company operates, shareholders of Nestle Group, and employees at all levels of the GVC. What makes an ethical company? An ethical company is one which does not harm or cause negative externalities to other parties as it operates. Ethical companies are ones which take into consideration sustainability and morality from all perspectives, social, environmental, and economical. Ethical companies' CSR includes having fair worker wages and conditions, not employing child laborers, and other responsibilities such as environmental consideration.
Carroll's CSR pyramid in regards to Nestle. Nestle meet their economic responsibilities well as they're the number one producer of consumer goods in the world. In 2019, they sold 92.57 billion Swiss francs worth of goods and reported profits of 13.7 billion Swiss francs. This means the company is extremely profitable and can pay their shareholders well, who are one of their primary stakeholders. For their legal responsibilities, Nestle claim their business practices are governed by integrity, honesty, fair dealing, and full compliance with all applicable laws, so in theory they should be meeting all of their legal responsibilities. However, this is not always the case, as they have had lawsuits brought against them various times for breaching child and forced labour laws, and their products often don't meet the legal requirements for correct labelling. Nestle meet their ethical responsibilities well as they pledge to empower and encourage women throughout the whole organisation. They strive for zero environmental impact from their operations, including zero waste. They've just launched the Nestle Cocoa Plan and they aim to reduce wastage and plastic in packaging. For their philanthropic responsibilities, former chairman once said in an interview, "I'm personally very much against corporate philanthropy. You shouldn't do good with money that isn't your own." However, the business does still take some philanthropic steps in the form of their 36 public commitments, which aim to better the lives of everyone in their supply chain. They also make huge donations to charity, such as the 700k to Action for Children in 2015. The most famous ethical scandal involving Nestle emerged in the 1960s with their powdered milk formula. It was claimed that in developing third world countries, mothers were made to believe that Nestle's formula was better for their babies than breast milk. Free samples were given out in maternity units and by people dressed as medical personnel, as well as most labels on the product being in English despite very few people speaking the language. This scandal resulted in a 7-year boycott of Nestle's products. This is an example of the egoism ethical theory, as Nestle were only focusing on selling their formula and gaining customers, instead of considering the babies and their mothers.
In 2016, Nestle was able to find forced labor in Thailand, consisting of poor and unpaid migrants. However, Nestle wasn't the only company compliant to slavery since, according to the firm itself, all other buyers from Thai seafood exporters were following suit and, unlike Nestle, hadn't filed for investigations regarding forced labor. Chief Executive of Freedom Fund stated that for a company as big as Nestle, it is rather unusual to conduct investigations proactively, and therefore the firm should be taken as an example of ethical behavior. However, the chief executive of Unseen UK said that this could have also been a tactic to deflate other legal issues regarding the business. In 2019, Nestle was able to identify 18,000 children working in a cocoa supply chain. But not all tasks performed by these children were recognized as child labor. Furthermore, the company decided to invest in new schools and refurbishing old ones in order to solve this issue. However, only 55% of the reported child laborers stopped working completely.
The Flint, Michigan water crisis. In recent years, it was discovered that Nestle was pumping approximately 200 gallons of fresh water out of Michigan every minute, and only paying $200 a year to rebottle this water and sell it just 10 miles away ethically from Flint, Michigan. This is because the citizens of Flint had no access to clean water for the past 6 years after the city's governor tried to cut costs by switching the water supply that was fresh to the toxic water in the Flint River. Have received a lot of bad press and heavy criticism for this, as it seems like they only focus on profits rather than the well-being of the environment or their citizens. Nestle's influence in politics. In 2016, Nestle injected $4 million into lobbying groups. In 2017, it was discovered that Nestle had relations with a number of significant international lobbying organizations, all of whom campaigned for things such as economic liberalization, free trade, and deregulation at the expense of the environment and both human and animal rights.
We've chosen to identify child labor as the most important ethical issue facing Nestle. This is because it's revealed a far bigger problem than Nestle itself. According to the International Labour Organization, 1/5 of the children in Africa were subjected to child labor. Within that, 9% were subjected to hazardous working conditions. As Africa is the biggest exporter in cocoa in the world, many children were subjected to working in cocoa plantations. It is known that the supply of cocoa consists of multiple small-scale farmers within remote plantations, where heavy machineries are simply not suitable and therefore the work is often labor-intensive. Additionally, the buying and selling of cocoa is done by multiple layers of agents. This puts pressure on farmers to lower the cost in order to be competitive at price, and consequently, the child labor will be involved and become a norm in the industry. This is an example of ethical relativism. While child labor is banned in most of the first world countries, the same could not be said for Africa. Human Rights Watch in 2015 revealed that in certain areas of Africa, child labor is seen as a service in exchange for education or money, and there are no ethical concerns regarding to that matter in their culture. It is the corporate social responsibilities of any cocoa manufacturer to implement regulations to either prevent happening of child labor or, at the very minimum, protect the laborer under their brand to work free from exploitations. In 2018, Nestle, along with 2 other companies, were filed against in a lawsuit regarding to their involvement in child slavery. However, while the 3 brands were top to the court for the matter, the top 3 chocolate manufacturers such as Mars, Ferrero Group, and Mondelez International continue to use the supply chains with no attempt to resolve the problem of child labor. This suggests that Nestle is operating in the conventional level of Coburg stage of moral development, instead of falling in line with the rest of the chocolate industry regarding to the use of child labor. However, this also suggests the ethical problem that comes at a bigger scale, which includes any business with affiliation with the cocoa supply chain. Fixing this issue before the other chocolate industry could give Nestle an advantage over the competition.
How Nestle are currently combating child labor. First, all suppliers must follow the responsible sourcing standard, which includes a minimum age requirement of 15. They also have made child labor an opponent in their corporate business principles. In 2012, Nestle introduced a child labor monitoring and remediation system, which allows them to find children who are in the most danger and help solve this. This has proven to be successful as they have monitored around 80,000 children and helped half of those children gain access to education. Managers at Nestle should continue and improve upon these steps to help improve the ethical reputation of the business. How else can they combat child labor? According to the International Labour Organization, there are various ways a company can combat child labor. Firstly, they can review the child labor laws in a country before beginning operation and stop operating in countries that have relaxed child labor laws. Secondly, the ILO suggests a company should perform proper age checks as a way to eliminate child labor. This is a strategy Nestle could use throughout its cocoa farms and supply chains. Another way that Nestle can combat is to allocate work based on the ages of the employees. For example, different countries allow different ages from 12 to 15 to work around 14 hours in a week. However, an issue with this law is that it might be taken advantage of. How to address this issue? Another way that managers at Nestle can address this issue is by using the already established Harkin Engle protocol, which is aimed to combat the use of forced child labor in the cocoa industry. This plan has 6 steps. First would be to acknowledge the problem. Secondly, to form groups who are able to advise. Third is a statement from all parties involved to begin combating the issue. Fourth is to begin planning and researching how to combat the issue. Fifth is to establish a foundation to oversee the entire operation. And last is to ensure the standards are being upheld on a wider scale. Furthermore, Nestle can address the issue by monitoring the cells more closely, as despite planning to stop child labor practices, they were once again facing a lawsuit in 2018.